But the thing is this: if there really is a reality beyond space-time, and that's not paranormal, anything paranormal that we're discussing. We're discussing science here, and scientists realizing that space-time model doesn't explain everything. And if that's the case, and there is a reality beyond space-time, then what is the challenge? But then for some people, it's easy to just imagine things that might be happening in this outside reality, which is kind of interesting, because if reality really is an imagination, if the process of creating reality is by imagining, which is what we live in our lives, right? We want to create anything. That starts with imagination first.
Hey there, beautiful souls. It's your girl, Allie, and we are back at it again for another episode of Living Life Consciously. I have a very special return guest on the menu for you tonight, and if we can get started, that would be great. Justin, say hey.
Hey there, Cosmic Thrill Seekers. I'm Justin. This is Living Life Consciously, where we explore the extraordinary, ride the waves of inspiration, and embark on an adventure of limitless curiosity together. Leslie, you want to say hi?
Hi, I'm your co-host, Leslie, also known as Light Being Love, an eternal spiritual being having a temporary human experience. And we're welcoming back Daniel Branco. Daniel, would you like to say hi?
Hi, everyone. I'm Daniel. I'm back here, second time, hopefully second of many.
Yeah.
Always a joy to be here.
Of course, yeah.
With Leslie, Ellie, Justin.
Of course, yes. And for our audience, in case you missed the first time that we spoke with Daniel, first of all, you're slipping, so you need to go back and watch that one. But on this episode of Living Life Consciously...
the channel's always growing, right? So.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. We're talking with return guest Daniel Branco, a neurologist turned neuroscientist, entrepreneur, and author. But that's not all. He's also an astrophotographer, pilot, and explorer. Born in Brazil, Daniel's journey is one of science, spirituality, and self-discovery. After studying the brain as a neurologist and postdoctoral neuroscientist at Harvard, where he helped map the brain for epilepsy and tumor surgeries, Daniel realized there's more to consciousness than meets the eye. Now he's blending the rational with the spiritual to explore life's biggest mysteries. And today we are thrilled to discuss his recent trip to the 2024 Soul Foundation Symposium. Daniel is going to tell us all the juicy details of this event, break down what he learned, and even offer some ideas to make it even better next year. For those of you unaware of this event and its happenings, let's break it down for you real quick. So first of all, this was the Soul Foundation's second annual symposium on UAPs and was put on by its board members and organizers, Dr. Gary Nolan and Peter Skafish. It took place at the Fort Mason Center in San Francisco, California from November 22nd to the 23rd. The symposium aimed to delve into the emerging field of UAPs by exploring their growing visibility, scientific and technological implications, potential government knowledge, and societal impacts. The event seeks to invigorate the global UAP discussion through presentations on scientific discoveries, proposals for policy reform, and futuristic visions of societal and technological adaptations. Some of the key speakers of this event included, but are not limited to, Dr. Eric Davis, Dr. Tim Gallaudet, Lieutenant Ryan Graves, journalist Leslie Keene, Dr. Jacques Vallée, Dr. Beatrice Villarroel, and that's just to name a few. There was a whole other list of people that I didn't include just to keep everything short and simple. There we go. Got it out. All right, cool. Hey, Daniel, what's up?
Good to be here.
Yeah, thank you for joining us again.
Absolutely.
Thanks for bringing me again. Yeah.
Cool. So we're here to discuss your recent trip to the 2024 Soul Foundation Symposium. Do you want me to start with like a general question, or did you have somewhere specific that you wanted to start?
Just start by saying that, giving you my overall impression of the symposium, of the event. To me, was a great opportunity to connect with so many people, like some of my heroes, like Bryce Zabel from the Need to Know podcast, James Fox, and others. And it had a feeling of like, we've been building this. We all have been building this online community of people interested in the phenomenon. But for me, it was the first time I met any other, it's the first time I've been to any UFO event, to be honest.
Oh, okay. This was
wow.
your
I've
first
never
time.
been to any other events, like a Contact in the Desert, things like that.
Okay.
I never felt like it was my crowd, even though now I'm more curious and I feel like it's going to be more interesting. But because Seoul was such an academic kind of symposium, I felt like, well, this is for me. I have to be there.
Nice.
More like-minded people. One problem, and we can go into your questions and keep exploring, but I think that this phenomenon is so tricky to discuss because people come from very different backgrounds, very, very different. And some are just natural skeptics, and just some others are just natural believers. And and for a long time, many people not take this subject seriously and will be making things up. So there are all sorts of people involved in the UFO, the broad overall UFO topic, right?
Sure.
There's so much. Not only UFO, but the paranormal or parapsychology or paranormal. It's always been like a no man's land. Like everybody has a say, and it's so hard to separate the wheat from the I forget
wheat
how
from the chaff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I thought this conference was a good start, but maybe there was too much wheat.
Okay.
Or maybe there are many different types of wheat, or many qualities of wheat,
Sure.
and which were not entirely contemplated in that conference. But in many ways was kind of I had a feeling of being back home in a sense, with maybe people we've met in other places, other lives, other dimensions. Like everybody there seems to be on a journey and on a mission to make this subject become a real thing.
Sorry.
I mean, almost everybody, because some people, including some speakers, at least one specific speaker, were there just to say, no, this is nothing, this doesn't exist.
Really?
Yeah,
wow.
there was a talk which was quite surprising. We can discuss that more in detail. I think that's very interesting. One of the I wouldn't mind discussing that and that speaker, and I think it's interesting to discuss that because it shows us how big of a challenge we have ahead of us if we are to make this kind of understanding mainstream.
Good point.
So so spill the tea. Who was it?
Oh, he's jumping right in.
I have the program in front of me, so let me see if I can find him. Program. So he was there. This is a physicist from CERN. So I guess he came all the way from Europe to give this talk.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
A physicist? Okay.
And another one that I forgot to mention in the beginning was Matt Ford. I got a picture of him too.
Okay.
He does such a great job too.
Oh, he was at Soul Foundation and the hearings.
Well, yeah, he's
good for him.
Yep.
Okay.
Being busy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Shout out, Good Trouble Show.
I found him. So his name is Dr. James Beecham, and the physicist from CERN. He's actually a pretty nice guy, but he was there to give a talk on the title of the talk was "What is Reality? The Possible and the Impossible in the Physics of UAP."
Okay.
And his talk was essentially all about the possible and impossible based on the known laws of physics.
But these things operate outside of our known laws of physics,
right?
right?
He's going off of the assumption.
Right.
He's going off of that an original assumption of the laws of physics. Yeah.
It was so frustrating because he was there speaking for like I don't know, he was there for a long time giving his presentation, and at least half an hour, but I think he went further, and it was all about how none of this is possible because the laws of physics would not allow it.
What was the reaction of the crowd? Was everybody kind of looking around
it was a very educated crowd because everybody clapped as if he was like, they didn't stand because for some other speakers they would there was a standing ovation. It wasn't the case with him, but
okay.
I think people were pretty generous to him.
Okay.
Because essentially he was discussing what is possible and what is not possible in reality. What kinds of reality are possible or not possible, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think I was the third to ask him. So my question to him was, so he essentially said, my question was, you said that for us to establish the reality of anything, we need data, right? And we need proof. And the burden of the proof is on who's claiming that different or new reality, right? So that's what he said. And I asked him, so you said that, right? So I have a problem. There is this phenomenon happening to me, and I have no proof. And there's nothing I can do. I don't get any data about it. And the phenomena I have is that I feel pain. And every time I go to the doctor to get treatment for my pain, the doctor tells me that my pain is not real, that I should get data on my pain and get him some proof of my pain.
Okay.
What should I tell my doctor? What do you recommend I tell my doctor? This is a question on the nature of reality, because based on your criteria, my pain is not real.
Okay, what did he say?
I love that.
Yeah, you basically took one of the biggest talking points of your book, which is comparing the quality of pain to this phenomenon. So
exactly, it was not by chance that I chose pain, because I don't know, love, for example, or hate. Those are feelings that most people would agree they have, but I think it's not as tangible as pain, physical pain.
Yeah, sure.
Right?
Right.
And we discussed that last time. You even mentioned fibromyalgia and all that.
Yes. Oh, you remember.
Yeah. And then I thought, and that's why I like using this example. So his answer was, look for another doctor. Because look for another doctor. And he went on saying, I don't understand anything about pain management and pain treatment. And I was like that. Well, he took my question quite literal. He did.
Yeah, I think it kind of went over his head a little bit.
Did he know that you're a neurologist?
He didn't understand the profound implications of my question.
Right.
So
we get it.
Yeah, but I had to dumb down the question a little bit. So I while he was saying things like that, like I should look for another doctor, I asked him quite plainly, is pain real? And he was like, of course pain is real.
There you go.
And then my next question would be, so can you elaborate on the physics of pain? And tell me how I can get proof of that, if it's real, how can I get proof of my pain and give it to my doctor? But I couldn't ask him that question because Gary Nolan was pretty adamant that he didn't want questions to become a dialogue or a conversation with the speakers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And that's, I think, something where the symposium it wasn't completely fulfilling, I think, for those who were participating, because it was a very academic kind of format, knowledgeable speakers talking to an audience who was trying to learn.
Mm-hmm.
And in this situation, differently from academia and other topics in academia, this is not really the case. Like in this specific case with this physicist, for example, he might understand a lot about known physics. I'm not going to challenge that, but the audience understood so much more about the phenomenon than most of the speakers, I would say.
Yeah.
So, and it wasn't a conversation. It was like a very, like a speaker.
So they were talking at you, not like with you or to you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a pretty conventional.
It was a presentation more than a conversation.
Right.
Yeah. And every session had a Q&A, but you couldn't develop the ideas, and it was more like a very superficial. And I think
surface level.
Yeah, we need an event where things are discussed in high, like at a very high level, which was the opportunity that those people I saw would promote, because very sophisticated kind of thinking, very sophisticated approach to the phenomenon, right? You wouldn't find anyone saying that, oh, I know it's real because I had a dream, or because I saw it, or because it wasn't like that. It was quite objective and scientific, and that's a problem. Another problem. So one problem of the conference was there wasn't much space for debate. So a lot of the debates actually happened in the hallways. So, for example, with Eric Davis, I was just like around him with 5 other people, asking questions and trying to learn more. Same with James Fox. So it was very easy to get access to the speakers.
Okay.
And get pictures and all of that. So that was a great thing.
Okay.
Nice.
But those debates, those conversations were not public. The public part, the thing that everybody was watching was kind of, and those are the talks that are going to be available online. So I was going to make them available, I think, at some point. Those are not as potentially as interesting as the conversations we had in little small groups.
I understand what you're saying. Yeah, and that's why we got you on here now, man. That's why we have you here now.
Yeah. So the debate has to keep going. So that was one aspect, was very like academic, in the sense that I speak and you hear and ask questions, but there was no real debate, because and that's based on the assumption that those people up there are the best informed people. And I think that's far from the truth when it comes to this phenomenon.
Yeah.
Like experiencers are much better informed, and they come with different degrees of like education and understanding about the physics, about the academic stuff. But they think of, I don't know, Bledsoe, for example.
Right.
Like he wouldn't be talking there, because it's not a conference for people to be talking about their experiences. And another thing is that it's a conference that assumes, it's like it's implicit, the assumption that everything has a materialistic explanation.
Okay.
So a lot of the discussion was around how do we, and they are like the conference is a child of Silicon Valley. So a lot of the conversation was around how do we develop a venture capital ecosystem to develop this kind of technologies.
Oh,
right, to make money off of it.
I don't think I knew that was an aspect of it.
Well, you need money.
No, just take a look at the program. Like the second day after lunch was widening the information energy spectrum, perspectives on UAP technology development, the potential for investment in UAP related ventures, opportunities, models, and challenges.
It's very centered around making money around it. Okay.
Right. You need investors to invest money into research so that people can be able to do research.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I think that's a little bit concerning in many different aspects. I'm not sure we want to create the next mega or multi-billionaire by having developed these technologies. And also these technologies already exist, right? Either we learned from them or we didn't. And actually my overall impression is that we, at least those government types that we know about, like Eric Davis, Cornell,
Right.
maybe even, I think the ones who know more are the ones that didn't show up, like Hal Puthoff
Oh,
and
Right.
Lekatsky, perhaps.
Yep.
James Lukatsky. Yeah.
Dr. Jim Lukatsky.
But even those, my feeling is that they are not really that ready if we have managed to reverse engineer those things. Maybe that's even more secret, or we haven't reverse engineered at all. Because we have to realize that in order to use a technology, you don't necessarily need to reverse engineer or understand how it works. Like, I don't know, a monkey can probably go into inside a car or like a bear if they could fit. If the car is running, they just hit on the accelerator and
Right.
I don't know, they probably know how to use it. That doesn't mean you have mastered the technology, right?
Correct.
So, and also that implies, and it might be the case, I really don't know, but implies that these technologies are purely material. Like you can make them work without any understanding of what's happening beyond space-time. So, and I feel like it's not the case. I feel like you have to make those technologies work, you have to understand what's beyond the space-time.
Right.
And this conversation is a little bit deeper than I'm making it sound like right now. But we've discussed this last time, and I shared some links. There is some like a pretty good evidence that space and time is not the most fundamental structure of reality.
Exactly.
Right? There are potentially structures where space time is contained within. Right.
Right.
And these phenomena, they seem to navigate between those worlds, between the material world, the physical world that we understand, and consciousness, which in my understanding, or at least that's my hypothesis, that what lays beyond space-time is a more spiritual / consciousness kind of universe.
Yeah, I understand.
Meaning consciousness is more fundamental, and consciousness is creating matter and space-time. Right? So either the brain is creating consciousness, or consciousness is creating the brain. One of those, or something else is creating the two. But to simplify things, I think we can assume that one of those two ideas ought to be more fundamental than the other. Either the consciousness is more fundamental than the brain, or the brain is more fundamental than consciousness, right?
Right.
And consciousness can be read as this spiritual realm. I've been listening lately to that podcast, Telepathy Files.
Oh, the telepathy tapes.
Telepathy tapes on Spotify.
I haven't started listing that yet. I need to.
Oh yeah, I need to. Yeah.
It's awesome.
Is it?
It's awesome, and they discuss a little bit of these ideas. And anyway, my point being that if these things use this technology to navigate beyond space-time, and they can travel in time and go past in time or in the future or whatever, they are not constrained by space-time technologies or space-time understanding, right?
Right.
In our understanding, at least the CERN understanding of anything beyond space-time is quite limited, because I don't hear about many things coming from there. I mean, some of these ideas come from top physicists, that there is structure to beyond space-time, but we don't really know what's out there. So if we don't know what's out there, I wonder if these technologies are like anti-gravity technology. I wonder if it can be developed in a way, in a venture capital kind of way, where you pour lots of money, you make that happen, and then you start, you create a business model around it and create the next multi-billionaire. Because
seems very human to think like that, right?
Maybe the technology is just physics and just physicality. But if the technology entails a further understanding and an understanding of the consciousness, spiritual universe. By understanding that other universe, the whole structure that supports this kind of activity might like tumble down.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? And then perhaps if we understand about those things and those technologies, we don't even need to live in a world. We won't even need to live in a world like it works today with all these financial incentives, which are never properly aligned. So many people have so many good and bright ideas which they can develop because there isn't a business model around those ideas.
Right.
The only things that thrive in our world are those things that for which there is a business model around. If you pay attention, that's all. You always need a way to make money out of your idea. Otherwise, it won't fly. It could be the best idea ever. And think of how many great ideas. If I had money, infinite money to just invest, like I could invest in that work or the telepathy tapes work. I could invest in so many brilliant people, but there's no business model around it, and the current and the limited access to funding usually comes from the government for research in general, and those research are very materialistic. Nothing is invested in anything that doesn't follow the materialistic paradigm, even though there is no explanation for pain, for the physics of pain, and nobody denies they feel pain.
Do you feel like we're missing the mark by modeling everything around a way to make money? I mean, I do. I feel like we're totally missing the mark. Like, and that's why I feel that this UAP subject is so transformative, because I feel like the lessons of the true nature of our reality that's going to come with understanding it is going to like wipe out everything we currently operate under, because it's just going to be like obsolete in the instant that you understand everything else.
One guy that will be interesting to have a conversation with would be Rizwan Virk. He was one of the speakers. He was the one talking about the potential for investment in UAP related ventures, opportunities, models, and challenges. This guy is not a common venture capitalist. He's in venture capital. I think he's been a founder too. Yeah, and but he's totally differentiated. He thinks completely out of the box, and I think he would consider to using the venture capital model, assuming these technologies can be understood from a purely physical understanding. In his case, he actually wrote a book about simulation hypothesis. So so he's not your bread and butter capitalist. So he wrote a book about simulation hypothesis, and so he, by definition, believes there is something beyond the space-time, because space-time would be a simulation. So, but I don't know exactly. I have to read his book, because a lot of people who think of simulation hypothesis, they think, oh, this reality is being simulated in a computer. So there is a computer out there, but the whole thing remains physical. Yeah. Because these people many times, or our society, our scientists, they all consider consciousness and pain to be an epiphenomenon. It's something that really doesn't exist. So you don't need to explain, because it doesn't exist. So if nothing that we feel and nothing in our consciousness exists, then of course you can simulate the physicality we live in another physical computer, I assume. Yeah.
But again, I feel like that's missing the mark completely, because it's not just all physical. It's not just all nuts and bolts or cells. There's a whole other realm that's like at play here.
Exactly. And everybody who goes through the phenomenon, every experiencer will know that these things, they know there is another realm of reality.
Absolutely.
It's not physical.
Right.
Now, was Whitley Strieber there as a presenter or as somebody in the audience? Because
he was just an attending.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think last time he wasn't invited, Last time you couldn't actually ask for an invitation or apply for an invitation. This time you could apply for an invitation. That's what I did.
I was wondering. I thought it was like
okay.
one of them exclusive parties where like you got to get the email invite and then call at a certain time and then they let you know where it is and then you show up wearing this color mask and they let you in, you know.
A friend of mine here, we have a Raising Consciousness WhatsApp group here in San Diego, and then someone in that group sent us the link to apply for
that's
the
cool.
invitation.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was there with more friends from that group. And Whitley I think he wasn't invited the first time. And this time he was able to apply for it. I don't know how it happened, but he was there, but not talking.
Uh-huh.
And maybe we need that. Maybe we need a conference that is just for the academics to be talking and people listening, because there's always something to be learned from them and from academia in general.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a great opportunity to connect with people, interesting people.
Good. Okay, cool.
But I really feel that it's lagging so behind, like a conference that only has academics. Like if it was a conference where even religion was discussed, like at the Archives of the Impossible, were discussed by Kripal. What is his first name? Jeff Kripal. And Karen Austin. She's actually an experiencer, but she's an academic experiencer, and she works at the Archives of the Impossible.
Okay.
So it was nice that they were there. So it wasn't a purely materialistic kind of approach to the phenomenon. It was religious, at least. There was also this other guy discussing religion, and he was discussing
were they discussing the connection, like, of extraterrestrials or, phenomena like within the religions?
The Archives of the Impossible is about every abnormal, like immaterial or every paranormal kind of phenomenon. It's quite interesting. For example, all of the Whitley Strieber's letters, because he was sent thousands of letters as an author of Communion and books.
Yes.
He was sent. He donated all of those letters for the to the Archives of the Impossible.
Yes, that's right.
Wow.
Uh-huh.
That's one example of the materials they have, and I think Jacques Vallée also donated his library, or is going to something like that.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Kripal is very much trusted as the curator of this kind of information.
Interesting.
So
okay.
That came up in the recent Netflix documentary with the lady who said that she got floated out of her room.
The Manhattan abduction?
Yeah, over Brooklyn.
Abduction. Oh, also the John Mack files, I think, are in the Archives of the Impossible too.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So they're doing like an amazing work with that, but again, academia, right?
Yeah.
So maybe this is Sol. Maybe Sol is where academia meets to discuss the phenomenon, but it comes with the greatness of academia and all of their problems, which is the materialistic approach to science, to everything. And because being religious, there is a difference between being religious and being spiritual. And I think they are open-minded, but they're still academic. So I don't know how that's going to play out in the future.
Okay.
But for example, if you take a look in my book, it wasn't an academic book because there's zero references in my book. It's all based on first principles. And that's you have these limitations when it comes to academia because there's the right and wrong way about doing things. So that's why I feel more excited about going to conferences like Contact in the Desert now, because I need to complement that experience at Sol with a different crowd.
Oh, okay, I gotcha. Now, if you had to say like which presentation was most impactful to you from the symposium, or which speaker or topic resonated with you the most, which one would you say out of everybody you heard?
Yeah, I would say that Karen Austin as an experiencer. It was awesome to hear from an experiencer.
Okay.
And so I think that was great. The least one, the one I was least interested in was the one I already mentioned about.
Right.
Beecham. James Fox's movie. He did.
I wanted to ask, how did he slip that in there? You guys got a sneak peek at the program. I'm so jealous, by the way. Like,
did you get to watch the whole thing, or
how did
just
that even come out?
Oh, he watched the whole thing.
Of course he did.
He wasn't listening. Yeah.
How'd that happen?
I don't know. It was in the program. It's like if you look at the program.
Oh, it was part of it. Okay.
No, it was in the program. It was like.
Wait, the program was in the Soul Foundation program? Is that what we're saying?
Yeah, on the website. Maybe.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. If you look on the website right now, it's like from 8 to 10, a special evening event. Nobody knew what that was going to be.
Oh, so it was scheduled but unlisted. Okay. I knew there was something in there because I didn't think that you guys like had that in your like list of anticipation things you were going to see. So what was the program like? Spill the tea. Like, we've been looking forward to this.
We don't want any spoilers.
We don't want any spoilers. I didn't ask for spoilers, but it's coming out in 14 days.
Oh, really? Nice.
Yeah.
Very well edited, and the case is made. It's pretty clear. The case for the phenomenon.
James Fox is a master at that, and this whole program thing is like, I can't wait.
That guy in the picture that I sent you, showing me and James Fox and the other guy is a whistleblower, a new one. And
I recognized him from last year's pictures.
From last year, he was there.
I think so.
You did?
If you're talking about who I'm picturing in my head, yeah.
Maybe so the guy that you're talking about in your pictures is a new whistleblower that nobody's heard of yet until now.
Yeah.
Oh, then I'm thinking of a different picture.
I think it's a new one. He's in the movie. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Never mind. Scratch what I just said a second ago. I was talking about a different dude.
Yeah. Sarah Gam, right?
Sarah Gam is in it. Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
She's also in the movie.
And she just talked to Chris Lato.
Yep. She's in Egypt right now with Lato and Russ Colhart. They were.
Yeah, they were.
Mm-hmm.
And I like the Chris Lato interview with Haas was super good too.
Yeah. Did you see his one with Sarah Gam? That one just came out.
I think I haven't yet.
Okay.
Yeah. Beatriz Villarreal.
Yeah.
That was a nice talk.
Okay.
Avi was nice, but it was very Avi.
Okay.
I don't know if that makes sense, that kind of comment, like because he has a particular way of like if you watched many talks by him, and it's always the same approach to the problem. He
has a really big ego. I would say.
It's very academic again.
Right.
So it's hard to deal with academics because they believe they are. So I think this is one interesting thing to discuss.
Okay.
Which is we are dealing with an intelligence that is higher than ours. And I think that academics haven't realized that yet. Because they never ever had to deal with any other intelligence higher than theirs.
Right.
Makes me think of the ego in general, and like the ego of that collective group.
So ego is a major barrier to you realizing your weaknesses, right? If you have a big ego, you won't realize that you really suck at something.
Right. Exactly, because you think you're the best at it, and so everybody else needs to listen to you because you're the world expert on this one particular thing.
I hadn't quite put that in the quite right way before in our conversation, because I was like, oh, it's very academic, but that's the key problem with it being
egos being
too academic in this whole thing. It's too much ego, and ego blinds.
It does.
So
you won't see.
I have a suggestion for next year's symposium. Everybody should do an ayahuasca trip together on day one. Kill that ego, have that ego death together as a collective, and then have the symposium.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, we should have like a ego killing kind of event prior to the symposium, because and it's interesting that it was Avi, when we mentioned Avi, that the conversation came up, because he's the typical, I mean, it's not his fault. He's the chair of astronomy, right, at Harvard.
Yeah.
He's supposed to be like that. He's supposed to have a big ego. And it's interesting that he's been fighting his colleagues in academia that won't accept I mean, he's an innovator in academia.
Right.
And he could hardly see himself as being too traditional. Like he's an innovator. He's fighting his peers in academia already, right?
Yeah.
And that's crazy, because that just speaks to how difficult this uphill battle is. If we have somebody of Avi's, stature, having to fight this hard to get people to listen to him and to take him seriously, then
because
it's crazy.
Avi doesn't he even consider this UAP to be real phenomenon? Like he's installing those cameras because he wants to do science and measure stuff. That's all right, but his primary focus is on those meteors coming from the outside of the solar system, right? Like Oumuamua and the one that fell in the ocean and all things like that.
Thank you. Sorry.
Bless you.
Thank you.
So I think even that is already super difficult for him to simply consider or hypothesize that there are civilizations out there very far from us who have sent probes here, perhaps. Now to think that they are right here, right now, it's too much. Because it involves unknown physics. It involves extra dimensions or things that are beyond space-time. But the thing is this, if there really is a reality beyond space-time, and that's not paranormal, anything paranormal that we're discussing. We're discussing science here, and scientists realizing that space-time model doesn't explain everything. And if that's the case, and there is a reality beyond space-time, then what is the challenge? But then for some people, it's easy to just imagine things that might be happening in this outside reality. But for most scientists, you don't get the right or the luxury to. I don't
Sorry,
see
Sadie is
what
saying
kind of,
hi
it's a
again.
dog.
I think she popped in last time. I'm not sure. Sorry.
Thank you. That's okay. And you don't see that kind of. You cannot imagine anything as a scientist. You have to measure everything that exists, which is kind of interesting because if reality really is an imagination, if the process of creating reality is by imagining, which is what we live in our lives, right? You want to create anything, that starts with imagination first. You want to create the iPhone. Sometimes somebody's got to think of that.
Everything
in their
starts
head.
as an idea.
That's right.
But scientists don't deal with creating anything.
Yeah.
They deal with measuring things that others made up, others created. So it's very difficult for them to entertain the idea that creation can come from consciousness and imagination. I mean, actual reality can come from those things.
Are there any scientists that you're aware of that are not missing the mark, that are considering the non-physical aspect to this that you're impressed with or that you want to mention?
No, I think there are scientists who are interested and are open-minded, but professionally they have to keep being scientists. It's my case, for example. I'm not a scientist, but I work in biotech. When I'm at work and working, I don't do these things, this other reality. I don't take that. I don't bring that to my work. That work is a 3D work.
Right.
I understand that. Yeah.
Same with science. You do your 3D science, but you like a Villarreal, like Beatriz is a scientist. Is a scientist, and even I follow Sarah Gam. Mm-hmm. I follow her on Instagram.
Okay.
I mean, and she's a scientist technically, right? And I don't know what she's doing now, but she's more like an intelligence person. But her background is as a physicist, and her postings are the most spiritual ever. Like,
so, she's a medium, is what she claims that she's a medium.
Yeah.
So there are people who navigate this. Mishlove is another one.
Jeffrey Mishlove. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's a PhD. He got the first PhD in parapsychology, right? So technically he's a scientist. Yeah, but there are many flavors of science out there.
Right.
Well, gathering from the conversation so far, I feel like we might have the answer to this, but I'll just throw it out there.
Okay.
How was the dialogue at the symposium bridging the gap between scientific inquiry and metaphysical exploration?
Yeah, there was.
Yeah.
He's like, it didn't. Missed that mark. Okay.
There wasn't that discussion.
Or even the consciousness connection. There was none of that.
There was an acknowledgement of academia being involved in registering and keeping those records, like the Archives of the Impossible, having all that material. But there wasn't a discussion around filling the gap between.
Yeah, I find it interesting because I feel like we're closer and closer to like it being like a widespread, like maybe an event or something possibly happening, where it's just gonna be out there and things are gonna change dramatically.
I think that's great that you're mentioning that, Leslie, because I left Saul with kind of an ontological shock.
Oh.
Yeah, because the way reality happens, it's very interesting if you pay attention. Reality is not really about objectively what's out there. It's much more about what you allow yourself to believe as real.
Okay.
So,
oh wow, okay.
So like any one of us have gone much farther than most people, right? Like we are like spearheading this when it comes to accepting this new reality.
Right.
But then every little step, we are not 100% all the way through. Every little event makes it feel more and more real. So when I was there, and for the first time in a real conference surrounded by people taking this phenomenon seriously,
mm-hmm.
it gets you closer to that reality. That's how realities are built, right?
Yeah.
So it's an ontological shock in the sense, wow, this is the first time I go to an academic conference and people are discussing this. And it's I don't know how many people, around 300, I guess. And it's like a lot of people discussing this. And so that was kind of an ontological shock. And I left that conference with the feeling that we are not ready for contact. I mean, who's ready, right? When I became a father, I wasn't ready. So that doesn't stop things from happening. But it's pretty much the same situation when it comes, if something happens in the next few years or soon, people are feeling it's going to happen, we are not going to be ready. But again, it's kind of becoming apparent. You're not ready, but
it still needs to happen.
It's still going to happen.
It's still going to be okay. Yeah. No matter what, it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And I started working on a material to help bridge the gap for scientists, for the academia, mostly for science. But I feel like both science and religion, none of them are ready to interact with intelligence that is higher than theirs.
And then you think of the gas and the industries that, everything's, all of our energy comes from. They're definitely not ready. They don't want.
Well, they don't want to be ready. They're trying to prevent this for as long as possible.
Yeah. So there is, I feel like, a prevention on that aspect, because of money, basically.
Yeah. That's true.
Thank you for being a voice for the consciousness aspect of it, because I know you said you're going to be writing a white paper, right? And you're going to make suggestions as to how to improve next year's symposium to include consciousness more, right? Is that what it was?
How the paper is on engaging higher intelligence. How should we go about engaging higher intelligence? Because I don't. Probably somebody has written something about that already, but that's not something in the conversation. At Saul, the understanding was that we are pretty intelligent. We are pretty smart. So it's not like
compared to ants, but
think about it. They are, what they're thinking is, how can we reverse engineer these ships that the government allegedly has, or how can we invent them ourselves, since we know somebody else, some alien race, has invented them already. That's the rationale. Whereas the rationale could be just asking.
Right,
mm-hmm.
Right.
If you want how the technology works, there's no shortage of mediums and channelers. And now you're listening to the telepathy tapes, autistic children who are in touch with these beings. So maybe it's just a matter of asking for help. Could you please come down here, make contact, and become friends, and then we learn about your technology, or we learn about your ways. Yeah. Nobody's. If there is, this is striking to me, because if there is an alien race who has developed these technologies that we are trying to reverse engineer, and we are more interested in reversing the reverse engineering the technology than making contact with them to learn about them first.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, that's so true.
Yeah.
It's like they're completely missing the biggest.
They're zoomed in on something so small, but missing the really big picture going on above it. It's like
there's an entire civilization out there,
and
this one. But we're not. I think that's part of the ontological progression. The shocking or the shock cascade. The understanding being, no, we can deal with alien material. Just don't bring the aliens, please, because we're not ready to deal with them, and have a conversation with them. But I would love to have the ship and reverse engineer the ship. But the actual alien, no, please, I'm not ready.
I know.
Yeah. And they claim to be the most intelligent of everybody.
Well, I think they got a lesson coming to them.
It goes to show, though, how much, individuals and just humanity, we can't always rely on, the presenters of information, in general, as far as academia or, whatever. It's a lot of personal experiences that people are having all over. And that's what's, I think, slowly going to open everybody up, and unless something happens where it's like nobody can miss it. This is happening. But.
So unless something happens, people, they're not going to change. Things will have to keep happening. This has to be and they are happening, right? This week, there was mass sightings several places, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
a lot.
And tomorrow there's supposed to be some big thing happening on December 3rd. I don't know enough about it to speak on it, but apparently there's going to be some event happening. I don't know. It's giving me Project Bluebeam 2.0 vibes, false flag event. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see tomorrow, I guess.
Those events with dates, I never give them much credence.
It was thought up by a computer program called a WebBot, and it was all based off of Joe Rogan interviewing Trump, and then 39 days later, this thing was supposed to. I don't know. We'll see.
Anything, anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway,
regardless of when, I don't really think the humanity is going to be ready. So it's gonna be like becoming a parent, that kind of experience. We're not ready, but the ship has sailed. Now we have to...
Well, I don't know if we can wait for everybody to be ready either, because just like you said, not every parent is ready to become a parent when it happens, but you get ready when you need to be ready, right? So it's I feel like we kind of need that shock, because look around, Earth is crazy.
So yeah, but there are exactly, it is crazy, but it's the beautiful thing is that there are so many books, so much material already published on the spiritual side, that when it becomes clear that we need to get ready yesterday, there's no lack of content. So I'm worried, I want to create a few more this primer on how to engage with the higher intelligence. Not that what do I know about engaging with higher intelligence anyway, but at least
you're thinking about it.
Yeah.
At least I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
And I know that having a big ego, for example, is not how you engage with high intelligence. Because think about it. You
need to check that ego at the door, first of all.
You have to humble yourself.
Think we are intelligent ourselves sometimes. And then someone comes up who's pretty dumb, but they feel they're intelligent, and they want to convince you of stuff. Isn't it annoying? So I think it's a similar situation here. If we are to make contact with a higher intelligence, first thing we need to get rid of is the idea that we are intelligence. No, we are dumb. Like
we have a lot to learn. We have a lot to learn.
We have a lot to learn because if we were that smart, we wouldn't be so blind to basic facts of life, like pain.
Yeah.
There's no physics for pain. So, but just realizing that it's interesting because there are many types of intelligence. People can understand this argument at an intellectual level, but the next hour they will be, or right after, they will be ignoring that fact and getting on with their lives because we've been so conditioned to think in a certain way. And I think there's a striking lack of intelligence to live a life oblivious to the assumptions that life entails.
Yeah.
Like the materialistic assumption is just an assumption. It's not proven. It can be proven scientifically. So, but we live as it was a fact. We live based on that. And we never question. I mean, some people do, but as a society, we don't. So it's not really a very smart society, particularly when people on the top don't have that level of enlightenment or understanding.
Yeah. I know. Tell me about it. Yeah, for sure.
I feel like if something happens, soon, maybe tomorrow, no, we'll see. But, there's going to be a lot of a mass, there will be a mass awakening, but prior to that, a mass dark night of the soul, people are really going to have to revisit everything that they ever knew. But I'm thankful for all of the near-death experiencers putting information out. There's a connection to all of it, and there's definitely a connection to consciousness, and we are spiritual beings having a human experience. And I feel like once everybody realizes that, and hopefully that would happen quickly, we'll have a change.
Things are going to happen, Leslie, because there is a reason for so much material being put out by so many people. There is a reason.
I feel that too.
Mm-hmm.
There is a reason, and then
they're all being pushed to do it, so like an internal guidance.
Like it's their mission, their life, part of their purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah, it takes one of two forms. Either these things are meant to happen and they already happen in our future, and we are just getting ready for that future that is coming because we can perceive and we have this sixth sense coming from the spiritual that tells us that that future is coming, and then we are getting ready. At least those who can have the sensitivity to perceive it are getting ready and trying to help the collective. Or there's nothing written or meant to happen in the future, but for whatever reason, we are getting more and more interested about these subjects as a society, and we are going to create a reality because that's how reality works.
Yes.
Either way, it's happening. Either way, it's going to happen. Either way, we need to get ready. And like you just said a second ago, I'm grateful for people like us that have been going through this already and been having these ontological shocks and these dark night of the souls and these really spiritual internal healing moments. And that's why we do this show, because we want to get this normalized, and we want people to have a place to go to when they come across that material for the first time and are like, oh shit, now what? They need people like us to come to who have already been through that thought process.
It makes me think of Jeanette Byro, the medium we had recently, which will be coming out eventually. But she had a message from the Cedars of the galaxy. But she said that basically, that we're all like scales of a fish, helping to swim through. So I don't know, but basically it correlates with the ripple effect. We're making the ripples. We're making it more cohesive. I don't know. So
we're normalizing the conversation.
We are.
We're paving the way.
So we are more scales.
We're normalizing. We're definitely normalizing the conversation. Yeah. Everyone involved is normalizing. So we maybe this is more. And I have also my whole life. I don't know how much I mentioned in our last conversation, but I've been dealing with this subject since I was a child. I was born feeling like I was from somewhere else.
Right.
And I never really understood why. So it was like I was being prepared for something my whole life, and I never understood why. And I was thinking, well, maybe I'm going to die, and I never understand why. And now it feels like this is like that was kind of another ontological or some other type of shock I had. So maybe the whole time I was being prepared to be here with this crowd, and
I believe that.
Right.
I totally believe that. Yeah. And I feel like, you have a lot more probably to come. Like,
yeah, I think and I think the parallel realities are a pretty good idea. I think that's probably everything that is possible to happen has happened and is happening. But in this timeline that we are, all of us who have been preparing for something in the future, that's the timeline. In this timeline, that's gonna happen. Maybe in other timelines that it won't happen, but we are here on this timeline for a reason, I think.
Well, I'm glad to be here with you guys. Like, thank God I got you guys here with me, because this would be a weird ride if not. No, and I truly mean that. I'm not just saying that to be cute for the camera. Like, I'm grateful for each and every one of you individually.
Absolutely.
Seriously, I mean that from my heart.
Yeah, it's like I feel like everything that we've ever experienced in our entire lives have helped to prepare us and shape us for these upcoming moments.
Yep.
Soul blueprint.
Right.
Yeah, I think that. I really think that.
I
really
feel that in my soul.
And I mean, even you being drawn to science and to pursue a career in neuroscience.
Yeah.
And maybe it has been guided so that you can be in a position to speak on this and have people take you seriously.
It's a great position to be in, and to be open to this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, hey, next time you have to run a symposium. I want to attend the Daniel Branco symposium. Like, we gotta make that happen.
I actually consider that, and it's not completely discarded as an idea. Like, let's see.
Okay. Say less. I'll be there.
I feel like we need more debate, more conversation, much less ego.
Yes.
And more connection, perhaps.
Love that.
Between the people. Yeah, and I hope this, whatever is coming, comes fast, because it was too much preparation.
I hear you.
I want to get started and get to work.
I hear you.
On whatever is coming.
Well, hey, again, I'm grateful for all you guys, and I'm glad that you came back on and was able to share this with our audience. The time went by so quick again. I feel like
I wanted to talk about your astrophotography. We haven't even been able to talk about that yet.
Oh, I know. Yeah, we still haven't.
Right, so you got to come back.
Okay. Let's leave some reason for us to talk again.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, do you have any last pieces of advice or things you want to say to our audience before we sign off for the evening?
Oh, I think the best advice would be keep preparing, since we've been discussing that, because it's going to go either one of these two ways. We are preparing for something that we are creating, or we are preparing for something that is waiting for us.
Mm.
I love hearing it put like that, because either way it's happening.
Yeah, and I totally feel that. I resonate with that a lot.
Me too, absolutely.
If you look back several years, a lot has happened already.
Yeah.
So what we're doing here is work. So in a sense, we don't need for it to come and happen for us to get involved with the phenomenon. At some point, there might be open contact, but honestly, contact is happening all the time on a daily basis with I don't know how many, but lots and lots of people.
Yes, right. And I love that you bring that up, because that's so important. And people like to dismiss experiencers, and to me that's wild. I mean, you could send somebody to jail for the rest of their life just based off of one person's testimony. How are we dismissing all these people having all these experiences?
But Ellie, think where we're coming from. You'll never see a patient talking in a medical conference.
Right.
When you put it like that.
Yeah, I was thinking about the medical, field as well. And they're schooled with what they're schooled in. They're not taught, diet. They're not taught a lot about food and nutrients and all this time. They might have 4 hours. I don't know. I heard something. I don't know what they actually get. It's like they're just told what they're told, and they have to stick by that. And if they talk outside of any of that, then it's like they're looked down in the field, and that's just unfortunate, because how can anything grow that way?
So I think it's only natural that experiences are not brought to talk, because now, even here at my company, we do speak with patients, because we're developing drugs for them. We want to understand more about them. But it's an exception, like in medical conferences, to have patients talking. They will maybe speak, have one session about the patient life, patient experience, but they will not be heard as a source of knowledge.
Yeah.
Like,
right.
Again, missing the mark, right?
They're missing the mark. Everybody's missing the mark.
Well, tonight, I implore all of you to charge your phones, because if this stuff does go down in the skies tomorrow, you better record whatever you see, because we need. We're gonna have to debrief as a collective after that, but yeah, we could keep talking to you forever, Daniel. But A, the time is running out, and B, you said you have to go, so I guess I'll just say goodnight. Did you guys have any last things you want to say? I don't want to cut anybody off.
No, just thank you for coming on the show again, and I always enjoy our conversations. And this has been illuminating to me, and I can't wait to talk to you again.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you very much.
We'll be talking again soon.
All right, absolutely. And for our audience, thank you guys so much for tuning in once again. And like I said earlier in the beginning of this video, if you have not seen the part 1 of our talk with Daniel or the UAP Society UFO News Show that we featured him in, you got to go back and check those out. And thank you guys so much for being here with us. Please do us a favor and smash that like button, click subscribe, ring our little notification bell, drop a lovely comment down below, and share this video with your family and friends to make sure we can spread the good word. All right. Much love, peace, and namaste.